All right, everybody, welcome to the Sober Strength Show. I'm here with Claudia Christian, actress, author, mental health advocate, and founder of what I just found out, formerly known as the C3 Foundation, now known as Options Save Lives. How you doing, Claudia?
I'm doing great, Jesse. Thank you for having me on the show.
It's a pleasure to have you. Thank you for being here on a Friday as we're recording this. Tell me a little bit about the name change there and what your primary organization does.
This C3 Foundation was founded in 2014 to advocate the Sinclair Method, a treatment for alcohol use disorder that I used for my own alcohol misuse. I found out about it in 2009 and started using it myself, and I was so blown away that I wrote a book. I made a documentary, One Little Pill, in 2012. 2014, excuse me. The book came out in 2012, Babylon Confidential, and opened up my nonprofit with only one employee, my executive director, Jenny Williamson, who has been integral to the success and permanence of this. We are the only global nonprofit strictly devoted to the advocacy of targeted use of naltrexone, otherwise known as the Sinclair Method. We have free resources. We've developed drink log apps. We have a list of providers who will support you all around the world doing this method. We basically are here as the one-stop shopping for people to find a provider or to find the help they need. We have peer support. We have, as of day before yesterday, the documentary is living on the website for free, so people can use that as a tool for loved ones. It's less than an hour long. They can watch the documentary and learn about the science behind TSM, the Sinclair Method. So we basically rebranded because we're not a foundation. We're a 501c3 grassroots nonprofit with a very small budget. So that's and basically my belief is that options do save lives, and that we have to have more options. That that right now people, even medical providers, are educated to tell people to just go to a meeting and to quit drinking, and this is not viable. It's not responsible. I don't think it's helping people because peer support only helps a limited amount of people, and medications are prevalent, available, and scientifically proven to work. They're effective. So there are a myriad of medications that should be the first line of defense against alcohol use disorder, in my opinion.
Yeah, in my opinion as well. And let's talk about that medication. So naltrexone is the primary medication we're talking about. I do know from my own experience taking naltrexone that there's primarily two ways that doctors will recommend you take naltrexone. One is, I don't know if this is what it's called, Claudia, but we'll call it the daily method. Small pill, typically I think it's 50 milligrams. You take it every day, whenever you want, and it prevents urges and over drinking, things like that. You're a big advocate for the Sinclair method. Now, you already went into a little bit what it's like, but can you go a little bit deeper and just explain the difference between those two methods, and then maybe even why it feels like you're a big proponent of the Sinclair method versus the daily method?
Absolutely, Jesse. So daily with abstinence, doctors usually tell people to take it every morning. Well, first of all, if you're going to take it daily and be abstinent and use it for cravings, why would you take it in the morning? What are you blocking? You're blocking your daily run, your coffee and toast, so you have to remember this blocks the reinforcement of certain behaviors like gambling and drinking alcohol. So don't you want to target that behavior, the behavior you wish to stop or decrease? So if you are going to take it, and I would tell anybody out there who's sober and happily abstinent, I would tell them, if you have cravings, just take it for the cravings, but take it in the late afternoon or early evening when you are more apt to crave. Don't take it in the morning, and then by the time the medication wears off, the half-life is 10 to 12 hours, suddenly it's 6 o'clock in the evening and you're craving beer. Well, it's because the medication has been working all day long, blocking other endorphins. So it just makes sense to me that doctors should start telling people to take it when they usually crave alcohol, not in the morning. So that's
I
just one
see.
thing I want to get off my chest about the way doctors prescribe this. Now, the next level is targeted use of naltrexone, otherwise known as the Sinclair method. So basically what this would mean is you would take a 50 milligram tablet 1 hour prior to the first drink of alcohol every time you drink alcohol. So this is
Okay.
not sort of I'm only going to take it when I'm, going to a wedding. If you're drinking alcohol, you have to take it an hour prior to that first drink of the day every time you drink. As you know, the Sinclair method has a very high efficacy rate of 78% in clinical trials, but we have found that with the addition of peer support, with the addition of therapy or coaching, people have an even higher success rate. So it's a really great, inexpensive, private, you can do this at home, treatment option for people. I work with a lot of people that are in work that they cannot admit that they have a drinking problem. Lawyers, doctors, police officers, airline pilots, people like that. And they have a pressing need for privacy when they're dealing with their alcohol misuse. And this is a perfect treatment for them. It's also a great treatment for people who want to deal with this in a private manner. If you want to be more open about it, there are meetings where you can show your face. There's meetings all over the place online. There are telemedicine groups that will help you and get through the process with coaching or peer support. I find this is a really great option, especially for people who, quote unquote, have tried everything else. For my own drinking problem, I tried rehab, a very expensive rehab, did nothing for me, relapsed immediately, felt that it was patronizing, and it just felt like when I look at it in hindsight, I find that my experience there was that they knew about these medications. Naltrexone was approved in 1994. There are other medications used to treat AUD, and they didn't even have the responsibility to tell me about options. That's
Yeah.
what enraged me, was that I had unbelievable mental and physical cravings. That's why I relapsed, strictly because of the mental and physical cravings for alcohol. And every single time they would come up, I couldn't control the cravings. So had they told me there was a medication specifically for cravings, I might have saved 10 years of my life.
Now,
And that really
do you
ticks me
think?
off.
Sorry to interrupt. Do you think they were aware of it and didn't prescribe it
Yes,
because
they
they
are.
themselves didn't believe in it? Or what was the motive for them to withhold something that was so powerful and effective? Then, in your opinion?
Because their business model is a revolving door. Most people
Mm,
who check out of rehab check back in within 3 months. That is their
mm,
business model. And it's strictly greed. You can't tell me any other reason for it. I will staunchly support my ideals in this matter, because think about it. These people that you're telling me they don't know about medications for alcohol use disorder. They run rehab facilities. There are doctors there. There are addiction specialists. It's been prescribed since 94. I went to rehab in 2006.
yeah,
I mean, come on, you're telling
yeah.
me that nobody there knew? Come on. I mean, everybody knew about it. In fact, when I did my documentary, I went back and I talked to them about naltrexone, and they were very much aware of naltrexone. So it's
I
in
see the
my
fire.
documentary.
I can
Yeah.
see the fire coming off of you,
Well,
so I
it's
can see sometimes. Hey, look, sometimes like good, altruistic vengeance is a good reason to go out there and start a nonprofit to help other people. So good for you. I love it.
Jesse, what kills me is that I lost some of the best years, of supposedly, of my life, my late 30s, early 40s. I mean, these are years that I should have been productive and looking great, and I lost them to alcohol. And I'm looking at people that
Mm,
I'm working with now who are 20 years old, and they've been told to go to rehab. They've been in rehab since they were 16. And and
hmm
and had they not found out about this, they would have wasted another 10 years or died. That's what
mm.
gets me fired up, is that
Are you,
people are unnecessarily dying.
yeah, as it should. It is frustrating. I'll say that it took me a very long time to find naltrexone, and I was, kind of bumbling around in this alcohol-free, sober, curious space for a while before I became aware of naltrexone. So I'm aware that people aren't aware of it. Why do you think even still today in 2024, it takes conversations like these to help people know that it's an option. And then I think the second part of that is sometimes you have to bring it up to your doctor, not the other way around.
Yes. Yes. Well, I'm speaking to a veteran right now, and thank you for your service, by the way.
Thank you.
I have tried to lobby the VA. I've spoke at the U.S. Senate. I've tried many ways to get this information out, and there are a few reasons why I think it's counterintuitive. First of all, in the United States, we are inundated with 12-step programs as the first line of defense against alcohol use disorder. So the first thing a doctor is taught in medical school, and now hopefully that's changing now, is to tell your patient to quit drinking and seek out an AA meeting. In the criminal system, the first thing that happens, the punitive measures they take against criminals who have an alcohol-related crime, they once again, they tell them they court mandate AA meetings. So this is our belief system, is that you go to a meeting and now it's off my plate. I can forget about the patient because let the AA meetings take care of them. But the problem is, and especially because the anonymity is that we don't know what the success rate of Alcoholics Anonymous is. Of course, it helps some people, but if it helped everybody, we wouldn't have the death rates that we have escalating as we do, especially post-pandemic. So clearly it's not helping the majority of people. Alcohol misuse costs this country to upwards of $250 billion a year. I mean, it's an insane amount of money that we spend, and it's getting worse. Alcohol use disorder rates amongst women are escalating, amongst men is escalating, but especially women. But I think that the reason why we haven't heard about it is there is no great money behind it. And the pill, the medication is produced in many different countries and it's generic. So there's no, Viagra appeal to it for a pharma company to make a lot of money off of it. It's a generic medication. If you have health insurance, you can get 30 pills for $5 or $10. So there's no impetus behind a pharma company to come out and say, hey, this is our naltrexone, because it's generic. The whole point of not patenting it was to make it accessible to people. But in making it accessible to people, there's no promotion behind it. The second, I think, the second reason is what I already said, is the rehab industry is extremely powerful. The alcohol industry is extremely powerful. And it's counterintuitive. To tell an alcoholic to drink alcohol goes against everything that we're ingrained to believe. How can you tell somebody with a drinking problem to take a tablet and then drink alcohol? It's scary as heck for a loved one to watch their loved one who's suffering from alcoholism to drink.
Yeah, let's pull up for 1 second. I don't know that anyone listening that's hearing about naltrexone for the first time knew before you just said it that there is a pathway forward to take naltrexone to drink moderately. Can you just talk a little bit more about, let's just say someone says, okay, I want to try naltrexone, the difference between using it to be completely alcohol-free versus to avoid binge drinking, over drinking, and negative consequences?
What we advocate is harm reduction, because we believe that it starts in prevention and harm reduction. So this is the Sinclair Method is strictly to reduce. It's mostly for people who want to go back to just being social drinkers, or who want to use this as a pathway to sobriety, to abstinence. So the targeted use of naltrexone is specifically used to decrease the desire to drink alcohol, so that it's no longer the foremost important thing in your life. It takes the back seat to actual life. And eventually, over time on the naltrexone, you will find you become disinterested in alcohol. And some people do naturally, like myself. I was on it for 9 years, and then I realized that alcohol just doesn't serve me at all. And so I stopped drinking. But if somebody would have told me that I had to stop drinking prior to that process, I would have probably rebelled, because it is the majority of people that I work with don't want to be told how to recover. And the problem with the most widely used method is that it's a very, very clear set of rules of how to recover. You have to do these steps. You have to read this book. You have to come to this many meetings. And a lot of people, because they're confused by their own lack of control over this substance, they become even more determined to make their recovery their own. And I think the Sinclair Method is such a wonderful option because the only rule is medication adherence, is to comply with the medication adherence.
Mm-hmm.
After that, you can do whatever you want. You can do it with support, or you could do it with a drink log app. You can do it with a community. You can do it alone. You could do it with one TSM buddy. You can create your own recovery on this plan. And the only golden rule really is to take that medication an hour before the first drink. And we found that people, it's amazing when you look at their drink log graphs, because they reduce so beautifully. It's not linear for everybody, obviously. And you can tell
Mm-hmm.
when the spikes are, Super Bowl party, Christmas with family. And that way you can say, oh, you overdrank in that occasion. So let's look at who you were with and see if that's a trigger, or, what we can deal with in communication and what we can learn from that. So it's really a beautiful, all-encompassing recovery when you use the medication and you're highly aware and motivated to get better, because you start to see all of the patterns of your drinking and with more clarity. This is another thing, is how do you listen to your therapist when you're craving alcohol? And all you
Mm-hmm.
can think about is, I want to drink. When I sat in AA meetings or in front of my psychotherapist, I remember when I was trying for recovery, is all I could think of is, I can't wait to get out of here and have a drink. So when that craving is gone, then you can actually be mindful and present. And
Mm-hmm.
that's another beautiful thing about targeted use of naltrexone, is it eliminates the noise in the head that I
Yeah.
got to have a drink, got to have a drink.
Hey, everybody, it's your host, Jesse Karajak. Quick interruption of this podcast. Look, there's a multitude of ways that we all can and should look to improve our drinking habits, right? And we talk about them all the time on this show. Things like getting in a group, being honest with people, focusing on sleep and nutrition and exercise. I can go on and on. But what most people don't know, and frankly, I didn't know, is that there is an FDA-approved medication that you can start taking. It's easily accessible and private and affordable, and you can start taking it today and start experiencing powerful benefits within days. And again, I've done it. I'm blown away by it. And I want to get the word out so that as many people as possible know that is an option that they can and should use. So there's a company called OR Health. That's OAR Health. You can text STRENGTH, that's STRENGTH, to 710710. Again, that's STRENGTH to 710710. You'll get a secure link. You can fill out an assessment. And if the medication is right for you, a licensed medical professional will prescribe it for you and privately, discreetly have it shipped to your home. You'll be one of over 35,000 people that have decided to take back control of their drinking through OR Health. And 76% of OR Health members report drinking less within just 2 weeks. So if you've been struggling, know that there is an incredibly powerful option out there for you. So again, strength to 710710 to see if it's a fit. And now back to the show.
Absolutely. I'll say a quick anecdote. When the first time I tried naltrexone, I was doing the daily method, but I was blown away because for me, I think it's not uncommon. For me, triggering time, if you will, 5 o'clock to 6:30. Let's just say it's my turn to put dinner on the table. I've got a 6-year-old, 4-year-old, and a 20-month-old. All want my attention, all yelling, all doing things, banging things. Loud sounds, trying to like make sure I'm cooking a steak medium rare, right? Like it all kind of happens at the same time.
It's a lot.
Yeah, by the time I'm sitting down, I'm still ruminating about the day and work. And by the time I'm sitting down at the table to eat, I'm emotionally fried. Almost feels like I can't focus. And what I taught myself was that if I reach for a stiff drink, it can start to kind of turn down the thoughts, right? So painting a picture there that cravings, super intense, super consistent around the same time every single day. That to say, day 3, when I took naltrexone, and I was ramping up, if I recall, it was like a quarter of a pill, then a half a pill, whatever. Day 3, I remember sitting there and I had like almost forgotten in the chaos of the night that I was taking naltrexone. And when I sat at the table, something was different. And it took like 5 seconds for me to say to myself, and excuse my French, I was like, holy shit, I don't care about that drink. And my wife actually had a glass of wine sitting next to me. And that was my aha moment. I looked at her wine and I was like, not only is my brain not spinning for some reason, like I don't really care about that drink right next to me. And it was black and white. From that moment on, I've been trying to do my small part as well to let people know that it's an option. whether or
Yes.
not it's one that you take. But I was like, if it worked on me, and I can be as skeptical as they come, especially if something's new, like I'm not an early
Yeah.
adopter, but because it worked for me and I had a hard time believing it would, that's why I'm like, okay, this is real and people need to know about it.
Now, imagine if you would have taken that tablet at 3 p.m. or 4 p.m. You know,
Touche.
I mean,
Yeah, touche.
that you would have just been like, "Blah,"
Well, here's a
It's
whole nother
it's
conversation.
amazing.
If someone told me about that medication 3 years ago, we wouldn't be sitting here talking because I wouldn't have burned out. I wouldn't have used alcohol chronically and had all the negative consequences it and had even needed to quit my corporate job in the first place. So perhaps it's a blessing that I didn't know about
Wow.
it, but now we can help other people know about it.
Yeah. Well, that's something that I always think of too. People say, "Are you angry? Would you do it differently?" And I think, if I didn't struggle for that many years, and if I hadn't gone through what I've gone through, I wouldn't
Mm,
be in a position to help other people save those years of their lives and not lose those years. So
mm.
I think that we are put on this planet to do something good for other people, and that this is why we're here right now. So
Amen.
it is meant to be, and I'm
Yeah.
happy that you found a way to recover, and I'm happy I found a way. It was just a really long process for me. But and this is the thing is like some of my clients call me and say, oh, I relapsed, and I'm like, you know what? This is part of recovery. The fact that you're calling me and you're admitting it and that you're mindful about it and you're motivated to try again. That's the beautiful thing about TSM. You can get back on the wagon. I don't recommend it because for some individuals, getting back on it after not complying is far more difficult than the first time, including myself. I relapsed as well on TSM, and I'm very open about that. I had burnt out. I was trying to help too many people. I wasn't charging for coaching. Everybody had my cell phone number, and
Mm,
5 years into TSM, I I didn't. I was on a plane and I thought, oh yeah, I took the pill, and I hadn't. And I took a
mm.
drink, and that was the beginning of the end. So, and it was hard to get back on it. It was
Yeah.
really the second time around was not as easy as the first time. So this is something that it's so dead easy, and yet the biggest issue with TSM is that people don't comply with the golden rule, which is you cannot drink without taking the pill and waiting an hour. They start to fudge around. They say, "Oh, I waited 30 minutes," or "Oh, they." And I'm like, "No, there's one rule. One rule. It's human fallibility. It's almost like we want to trip ourselves up in some regards, and that is why I want to rewrite my TEDx talk, because I was wrong. It's not just a biological fix. This medication helps the biological forms of addiction. That means the craving, both psychological and physical, but it doesn't help you work out the reason why you started drinking in the first place.
Mm,
So that is the inner work that people talk about, that they achieve through peer support like AA. A lot of people love it because they find that inner work and they say, "Oh, I worked so hard for this recovery." My belief is that you can do that work, but in an easier way, but not craving alcohol. So you can go on something like TSM, reduce the cravings, and then start doing the inner work and questioning your relationships and questioning your life choices and really doing that deep thinking that we all need to do in order to recover.
yeah. In your own journey, that deep work that you've done in your own recovery, have you been able to isolate one primary reason or some of the reasons that you found yourself struggling with alcohol misuse?
Absolutely. I was in complete, uh, I hate that word denial, but I was denying the fact that losing a sibling and being sexually molested by my neighbor
Mm,
for a year when I was a
I'm
teenager
sorry. Bless
had
you.
any thank you. But 1 out of 3 women are raped, and that was my go-to mechanism. Was like, well, I'm just 1 out of 3 women. It happens to everybody. This is normal. And
Mm,
so I had there were so many levels of that. Like, why didn't somebody notice sooner? Why didn't my parents notice sooner? That I felt abandoned, and that piled on my defense mechanism, and that built a wall inside of me where I wouldn't let anybody close, and I didn't trust anybody for years. And I denied those feelings. I denied that losing my brother at the age of 8 was devastating. I was like, well, people die. I mean, I was really, really, because my mom came from war-torn Germany. My father struggled with a lack of love in his household. So I just thought, you got to chin up, bear it.
Mm.
This is what we do. And there was no therapy for anybody in our family when these things happened. There was no talking about it. It was swept under the rug. That's just the old school way of dealing with it. And I thought that that's the way people dealt with crises in their life and trauma. They just sweep it under the rug and you move on. I
Yeah.
didn't realize that over the years that using a substance, I just thought, I like wine. I didn't know I was actually in pain. I
Mm.
didn't know that this would get out of control. Um, I have a sibling who had substance use disorder as well, and the other one didn't. So who knows who it's going to hit? I know that we have it in the family, and that two of us were affected in this one family. So, it's something that I've learned the hard way, is that everybody I work with, no matter how much they deny it or saying, my marriage is great, my family's great, my work is great, I find something that traumatized them as a
Yeah.
child. I find something. Once you dig in there, you realize there is something, even if it seems small.
Yeah.
It is there, and in our response as a child, how we respond to bullying, or to criticism, or to feeling like you're a bad child. How we respond to that just keeps building and building, and we keep pushing these feelings down and pushing them down. And it eventually catches up with you, and
Yeah.
it's a hard thing to do, to try and teach a 60-year-old really macho Australian man how to communicate. But some of my clients are these guys like, oh, I'm fine, and
Yeah.
it's so interesting to get them to just try to communicate their feelings, and once that gate opens, you realize, oh wow,
Yeah.
everybody's experienced something that justifies this harm that we're doing to ourselves.
Yeah.
And
And
it's
it's
it's a
so,
beautiful thing, it can be a beautiful thing. I'm sure you've found too.
yeah, for sure. But I think what makes things so difficult, and let me know if you relate with this, but that revelation you've had about yourself as a young, child, adolescent woman, that you didn't want people to be close to you. You pushed
Mm,
people away. I think what's so difficult and complicated about humans is you probably did not even know that you were doing like that wasn't a conscious decision you were making, or unless I'm wrong. Like, were you
mm,
willfully saying, I don't want to be around people, I don't want to let people close to me. I have, I'm inadequate, I'm insecure, whatever it is, or did you realize all of this looking back at your life?
of course. When I look back, I realize my man eating, that kind of thing of like, I don't need anybody. I don't need anybody. When, send them away. Don't let anybody spend the night. Intimacy was deadly frightening to me,
Mm.
because I had lost somebody so close to me, and I had been violated without
Mm.
permission. Somebody had taken something from me that I didn't give
Gosh.
them permission to. So all of these things led to me wanting to be in control. But
Mm.
ironically, of course, the desire to be in control, I chose the one career that you have no control over, acting. and I and I chose, and I didn't choose, but I fell into alcohol use disorder, which I had zero control over. So here's
Right.
how that this is the kind of hilarious and sad and tragic
Messy.
after effects of messy, of trying so hard to control things in my life, and then being completely out of control. And
Yeah.
and that whole theme of control throughout anybody who suffers from eating disorder, substance use disorder, they're trying to control. I also suffered from anorexia and OCD. So it's, those things you can't, you once again, you can't control either one
Yeah.
of these things. Nobody wants to be counting everything in their life, but as a kid, it's all I could do was count stuff, and I couldn't control it. And so what did I do? I created an eating disorder that I could control my caloric
Gosh.
intake. And then
Yeah.
that takes total control over your brain. So it's these, this horrible, things that happen to you. And instead of being able to really retreat into yourself and have somebody guide you into a place of saying, hey, let's unspool this and find a way to deal with life now with all of your experiences and trauma. And let's talk about it. And instead of that, it was just a life of trying to find things to shut up the noise. And I think other people can relate to this, is we're just constantly pushing down things. Even when you talk about the stress that your children were creating around you and the response mechanism of grabbing a drink to quiet the noise. And, you think to yourself, well, clearly, logically that a brisk walk or 10 minutes of meditation or a little, downtime and looking in each other's eyes and saying, hey, we got this, or even your eating habits, people not eating protein throughout the day, or people skipping meals and their blood sugar levels go crazy, or they're grabbing sugar and caffeine. All of this can contribute to that feeling of like, I just need a drink.
Yeah.
And we're never taught any other alternative because alcohol is so prevalent in society. It's everywhere. And we're taught from a very young age that this is what you deserve at the end of the day. This is what you need if you're a mother. This is what helps you cope at a bridal shower. I mean, it's ridiculous. It really is. It's so pervasive. It's like we've all been brainwashed to believe that this is the answer. Whereas if you look at the statistics, this is what's killing Americans. In so
statistics.
Many different ways.
I've actually got the statistics right over my shoulder here on my other monitor. Last year, 178,000 deaths each in the year contributed to AUD, and that is the fourth leading cause, or should I say losing cause, of preventable deaths. Preventable deaths, obesity is on there because if you eat yourself to sickness, that's a preventable death. Smoking cigarettes, things like that. But again, that's 180,000 lives, and who knows if that is understated, but it's a serious problem.
Yeah, 3.5 million worldwide every year. And as you said, it's preventable, especially with medications like naltrexone. It is preventable. In fact, if you have a teenager who's binge drinking, why not nip it in the bud, but prior to it becoming a real issue? I mean, these are the cost, the human cost, the fiscal cost. It's something that drives me crazy every single day because there is a way to prevent this, and there is a very viable option, which is harm reduction, and that's what we're talking about.
One more stat. This stat is probably the one I should have said. I think it's a little more alarming. This is coming from AAMC.org. An estimated 1 in 8 deaths amongst U.S. adults aged 20 to 64 is attributable to excessive drinking. So 1 in 8 people who die between those ages, 20 and 64, alcohol is involved. I think that's a little more alarming.
It's amazing. Mental health,
yeah. I heard this word. I was watching a show yesterday, Shrinking with Harrison Ford, if you know it. And he used the word dysregulated. They were talking about a client that they have in this fictitious show about therapists and therapy. And one of the clients got in this habit of being able to call their therapist every single time they're having an issue. And they use the word dysregulated. I looked up that word, like what is a dysregulated emotional state? That's exactly the state that I was describing around dinner time. And before even learning of this term, like I'm always asking myself, what is this feeling that I have? And why do I turn to alcohol as the connection to heal it or to fix it in the short term? And what I've learned in doing my own work and inward journey is that I never learned how to cope with a feeling of emotional dysregulation in a healthy way. No one ever taught me the tools. I mean, you mentioned them very quickly and flippantly, like go for a walk, go meditate. I found at 15 years old as an insecure teenager going to a party that the thing that can help me fix the insecurity and the inner voice that was unhealthy was alcohol. And in my early years, that was my crutch to socialize and get past what was insecurities. And we don't have to get into what they were and why they were there. And then later in life, when I started to be confronted with the pressures and stresses of being successful in my ambitious career, with trying to be a perfect father and a perfect husband and all those things, I found out that that's a different type of kind of dysregulation. And I can use alcohol in that season of life to turn off very specific stresses and worries. So a little bit of a long speech there, but this idea of, underlying mental health issues and discomfort and dysregulation and turning for some reason to alcohol. And it takes an awakening to realize that the alcohol is not necessarily the biggest problem. It's a problem. But what the bigger problem is, or the more significant that needs to be addressed, is how do you, as you said it, Claudia, how do you do life? How can you get to a place where you can do life without needing to ingest something to help you just get by?
Yes. But here's the thing is, life is beautifully messy. It's chaotic. And we make these choices and we expect everything to be smooth. When turmoil comes up, we have such an innate sixth sense. So when these insecurities come up, and when this, people say, well, I'm socially anxious, ask yourself why. This is the thing. Nobody ever says why. They just say, oh, I'm anxious when I walk in a room full of strangers. Okay, well, let's dissemble it. Why are you anxious? Well, because I think nobody's going to talk to me. Is that even particularly true? Do you really think that not one person's going to talk to you? Well, I don't know. Okay, what if nobody talks to you? What if you stand in a corner and have a non-alcoholic beverage and look around the room and people watch for 10 minutes? If you're not having a good time, you can leave. Okay?
Yeah.
I mean, so what's the worst that can happen? And what we find is that people are just projecting all of this stuff, teenagers especially. They will project like, oh, I'm gonna fail. I'm a loser. I know nobody's gonna like me. Everybody hates me. I don't look right. It's like a little bit of guidance and understanding that rejection is important because we learn boundaries, and that being rejected and creating a way to deal with rejection and deal with everything being imperfect for a while makes us reevaluate our strategies. It makes us curious enough to learn and to adjust. You have to be an open, broad, deep thinker. And I'm afraid people have this go-to mechanism where if something's not perfect and they're not feeling comfortable, they've got to find something to make it perfect and make them feel comfortable. Life is imperfect. Life should be beautifully messy because that's how we learn and stay curious. And it's also how we adapt our own behavior. If you're bull-faced, walking into a party going, hey, it's me, doesn't work, and people are turned off by that, guess what? The next time you go to a party, you might come in with a little softer approach. Now you've learned, but you don't give up. And it's all about that willingness to put yourself out there and to live and to be hurt and to be rejected and to love and to lose that love. We want everything too easy nowadays, and it's not easy. But the beautiful thing is that when it's not easy and you learn from it, it gets easier. And also you get to an age where suddenly you don't care what people think. You say what's on your mind. I mean, I call it the F it 50s. It's like, finally you're in a position of saying, I don't care, what you think I look like without makeup or what, it just doesn't matter because life is so much more important than the superficial. So,
I love that.
Other lessons to learn.
Hi, I'm Jesse Karajat, founder of Altum Fitness, where our mission is to help you break free from unhealthy habits and mindsets to find true physical and emotional fitness. The Altum Fitness app is a world-class fitness companion offering expertly designed workout programs personalized to any goal and any experience level. By joining this community, you'll gain access to top-notch expert training programs, nutritional guidance, habit change programs, and so much more, all tailored to help you achieve your unique goals. By joining Altum Fitness, you'll also gain access to our exclusive companion community, the Altum Tribe. In the Tribe, you'll find access to expert coaches, habit change programs, live challenges, events, and so much more. It's a space to connect, learn, grow, and be motivated as you navigate your fitness journey. For one low monthly subscription, you'll be granted full access to our fitness app, community, exclusive challenges and content, and so much more. So join Altum Fitness today and become part of our amazing community. Download now and let's live deep.
I love that. I've never shared this openly, like in a podcast recording, but I've got one tattoo on my entire body, and it's on my non-wedding hand, and it used to be FI. Can you guess what that used to stand for? FI? You just said it. Fuck it.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
not supposed to swear. Sorry.
No, it's okay. No, my father, he was onto something. Look, he died when he was 49, and he had AIDS from intravenous drugs. Made some bad decisions when I was a toddler that caught up to him downstream. But all that to say, the guy, uneducated, dropped out of school when he was a sophomore in high school. He's from Secaucus, New Jersey, which is in North Jersey. Rough place to grow up. Anyways, when he told us that he had AIDS, I was blown away because he had it for 9 years at the time, and he was the most optimistic, like just a great guy as best as he could be. And I said, Dad, like, how do you stay so optimistic even now, knowing that you essentially at the time in 2002 it was a death sentence, right? We didn't have the medication that we have now. And he goes in my best like North Jersey accent, he goes, you know how, kid? Fuck it, that's how. Control what you can control. He goes, control what you can control and let the rest happen. And so anyway, he told me and my brother after he passed away that he would just love it if we would get FI tattooed on our non-wedding hands. And then anytime we find ourselves dwelling on or worrying about things that are outside of our control, which is your key word earlier, then to just look at him and just remember how strong he was even when he was facing death. So sorry for the cheat, but I haven't,
No,
I don't hear FI a lot. But anyways, when I became a Christian later in life,
love that.
I was getting tired of people asking me like, hey, what's the tattoo? And I had to like swear to people I didn't know. So I wound up replacing it. A tattoo artist turned it into PL, which is power and love, which is from my favorite Bible verse. So full circle, Claudia.
Well, I think both lessons, the FI and the PL, are really, really important because
I agree.
if you're talking about faith, you get to the point in life where you choose your faith based on what resonates with you, not with what your parents dragged you to. What church your parents dragged you to when you were a kid. And people can go in and out of faith just as they go in and out of recovery. And I think that you do get to a point in life where you come full circle and you feel more whole and you choose people who make you joyful. You choose relationships that are good. You learn to set boundaries. This is all part of recovery and also part of faith. It all comes down to self-love. And every person I look at who's stuffing down their emotions with a substance or with food or with gambling or pornography or whatever it is that's giving them this dopamine hit, I just want them to choose themselves and to choose life, even if it's a little messy and unhappy and dirty and difficult. If you just get through it, there is so much sweetness there for you. And it is there. And whether it's in nature or with a Bible group or with in meditation or whatever it is, it's there. And I just don't want people to give up. And if we can provide people with hope or an option, that's a life worth living, in my opinion. And I hope that this message reaches people out there who are struggling, because you've got to never give up. The one thing might not work, try another one. That's why I named my nonprofit Options Save Lives. There are options out there. I don't care if you get better using a pineapple diet or naltrexone and group therapy. It doesn't matter. Just get better. Stay off the roads drunk. Raise your children present, not inebriated. Be kind to your parents when they become elderly, and be there, and don't feel like you have to drink when you're around your family. Instead, communicate, set boundaries. It's so important that we take this time and live the life we're meant to be living, and that one that we were given. And I think that's what I want for everybody. I want them to be happy.
I love it. Claudia, any questions that I should have asked you, or maybe a better way to ask that is anything else that you would have the Sober Strength audience know or consider, especially along the lines of recovery and mental health?
I would definitely investigate your options. I find that mindfulness and accountability is very important. So, we have coaches, a coaching page called yoursinclairmethod.com. I've trained them all. They're wonderful coaches. Doing something like that can keep you mindful and accountable. Seeing somebody once a month or just check-ins and periodically. I think that once again, I think it's almost like a fast food menu. You choose what you want in this recovery. the most important thing is to do this for yourself, and to do that inner work, that time to reflect and to ask yourself why do I need a drink? Why am I doing this to myself? Why? And to ask the hard questions. I find journaling is helpful for a lot of people who are recording their thoughts, dream books, all of this stuff that sounds Scooby-Jooby and all that stuff. There's a reason why it exists. There's a reason why therapy exists. I was against all of that extra help when my beginning of my journey, and now I can honestly say that I was wrong. In my TEDx talk, I was wrong. It's not just biological. There's a lot of trauma that everybody holds, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's part of life. It's how we deal with it. And so I encourage anybody to seek the help that they need and to look at all the options out there. Yeah. And once again, there's lots of free resources on my website. You can get to it with c3foundation.org. And even through the rebranding, you can still reach it there. You can also just Google Claudia Christian, nonprofit or TED Talk or any of those things, and you'll find your way to the Sinclair Method. There's some great books out there on it as well. And there's a lot of really great video. There's a lot of young video bloggers like Katie Lane out there with Thrive Recovery that's doing tons of videos that might resonate with younger people who are struggling. There's so much help out there. There's, podcasts like yours, and there's so much help nowadays. There's options. When I started, there was like nothing. There's options now. Thank God. Thank God. If you pop a link to my website, if anybody wants to become a hero, we are grassroots and we are donor dependent. So if anybody feels like they were helped by this information, we would appreciate any help that you can give.
Yeah, and
it's hard. It's a struggle. We have a very low budget, and we really want to get to the point where we can offer coaching for free to people who are struggling financially. So that's our next big goal, is to have a free coaching option for people.
Gosh, I love that. We'll certainly do our part, me and the show, and we'll link to all of everything that you just mentioned there, your website, and maybe do a little easy pathway for people to donate. But the passion just comes off you. I've really enjoyed this conversation. You're a lot of fun, and you have a lot of deep passion, and I can clearly see why you're doing what you're doing, and I've really enjoyed talking to you. So thank you.
Thank you, Jesse. I just want people to find the help that they need, and I want them to live the life that they deserve, honestly. Yeah. And I thank you for helping me spread the word and for doing what you're doing and giving up your corporate job and turning to this beautiful work that you're doing. God bless you. Seriously, this is the work we are meant to do.
Thank you. God bless you. Claudia Christian, everybody. Live deep.
All right, everybody. That's the show, folks. Thank you so much for tuning in to the Sober Strength podcast and spending some time with us today. We've got a favor to ask. If you enjoyed the show, would you please consider subscribing to the show and even leaving a rating and review? That simple act drastically helps us reach more people in our mission to help them live better, longer, healthier lives. You can also follow us if you'd like on Instagram and YouTube for regular tips and motivation around mental health, addiction, and so much more. Know that your support fuels our brand and is greatly appreciated. So until next time, stay strong and live deep.